He was replaced by a government cloning operation that is growing celebrities in test tubes.
Oh, baby.
Yep.
Oh, see, this is what I was waiting for. If anyone in the early 2000s is in charge of some program that is like secretly manipulating the American populace, it's Dick Cheney.
You are listening to Tape Spaghetti, the podcast about the twisted and tangled innards of the music industry. Some of this content may not be for all listeners or viewers, so if it's not for you, no harm, no foul. We'll just catch you on the next one. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go.
Welcome to Tape Spaghetti. I am Scott Marquardt, and I am joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Blake Weiland. Blake, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. The weather's great. There's new guitar stuff happening in our world that's really exciting. It's good stuff. Good stuff all around, man. Yeah,
I can't complain either, man. I was able to take the sides off the Jeep on the way into work today. Mwah.
There you go.
Thing.
Oh, yeah.
Nashville gets like the smallest windows of nice weather, unlike the PNW. Like winter's cold, not as cold as the north, but it's cold. And then summer gets like real hot. So you got to enjoy the spring and fall when you get the nice weather.
It's funny that you say that because it's been coming up lately where I'll tell people, they're like, oh, because at this point, people kind of know I go to Nashville a fair bit, especially for somebody from Portland. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, yeah, when are you going back to Nashville next? I'm like, oh, July. And everyone goes, ooh.
Yeah, buddy.
Ooh. Like, fortunately, I'll be indoors most of that time. But yeah, it is does get warm for sure.
Yeah. And the event you're coming out to, that's always tough for me, man, because it's July and it's like, for those out there listening, it's like a sort of industry conference that we have to go to in the music products industry. And the hard thing for me is that, like, you kind of want to like wear some layers or something. Like, you don't want to show up in like shorts and a tank top, but it's hot. And so it's very difficult to navigate. I mean, like, what do I wear to look professional, but not be burning up?
You don't want to wear shorts and a tank top, but I do want to wear shorts and a tank top at all times. Yeah.
Well, and you kind of run into the problem. My wife always complains about this with like concerts and stuff, where it's like burning lava hot outside, but inside, to counteract that, they make sure it's like 64 degrees. Yes. So you can't really like be happy with both. You need like a jacket inside. And then you need to like take everything off when you go outside.
Not everything, unless you're on Broadway. Then maybe you can get away with it. I don't know.
I think you can get away with it. If you're in the Ghost Alley, I think that you'd be fine.
Ah, that's true. The aforementioned Ghost Alley that we talked about. Was it last episode? No, episode before last. Actually,
a couple episodes back.
I should clue you in. This is a great time to do this. There's the optimal time. There is no better time for me to possibly tell you that
I'm ready to get clued.
I didn't release these in chronological order, so
Well, that's all right.
I don't know which episode this is exactly.
At some point, we talked about the Ghost Alley, and you probably already know about it by now. At this point,
I would think so.
Well, speaking of the podcast, that thing that we're here that brings us together for this particular hour and change today.
Oh, that's right. We're recording.
It's your turn, baby.
Boy, I got some segments for you today.
I love it when it's your turn. When it's my turn, I'm like a little like, oh, I got to remember all this stuff. Got to be ready to go. When it's your turn, man, I'm just relaxing here. It may as well as be the weekend.
And I feel exactly the opposite. I love it when it's your turn because I can, not just because I can relax, but genuinely we talk for guys who talk as much as we do, which is, well, we're going to just pull back the curtain here and reveal that we just were on the phone for like an hour before this
I think
recording.
That's normal.
When you present, I find out new stuff about you sometimes that I'm like, you'd think there would be nothing left to learn at this point in our relationship, but there's so many, whether you're wearing layers or not.
Deep well of knowledge and mystery, man. No, you'll never have me figured out. Unlike my wife, who's had me figured out since like 5 minutes after meeting. I haven't surprised her the whole time we've known each other. But for everyone else, there's some stuff.
I was going to say,
I'm glad I can still be mysterious.
You're just like Shrek, ogres are like onions. Yeah. But today we're not getting into onions, and we're not
Or
delving
ogres.
or ogres. Well, maybe a little bit. Depends on your perspective, I suppose. We are talking about conspiracies. You remember when conspiracies used to be fun? You know
I
what
do.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's once they started getting taken too seriously that it all really kind of went to hell.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to reclaim that territory today.
Okay. That sounds
Yes.
fun. I like a good like conspiracy that doesn't like there's very low stakes for the conspiracy, you know? A conspiracy where it's like, oh, we need to change everything about the whole country, and actually doctors are all, lizards, and we shouldn't go to that gets unfun pretty fast once things get real.
Yes. Well, thankfully today, we are planting our flag firmly in the fun, goofy category, unless any of this happens to be true.
If any of it's real, then then it's a little bit less fun.
Then it's not fun at all. Actually, it's kind of terrifying if any of this is true at all. But I'm also planting my flag, metaphorically speaking, as a skeptic on all of these right now. But that doesn't change the fact that they're a lot of fun.
We found a conspiracy that you're a skeptic about. I can't wait.
Despite what you have tried to illustrate, I actually am pretty skeptical about most of it. I just enjoy it.
That's fair.
Which is why I'm wearing a Bigfoot hat. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I love Bigfoot. I have been in the woods a lot, and I've never seen anything to lead me to believe that there is an actual Bigfoot. But I love the concept of Bigfoot.
Oh, it's a lovely idea. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It surprises me that like Bigfoot is not the mascot of every sports team in the Pacific Northwest, or the mascot of any sports team in the Pacific Northwest. I guess it's because like the Bigfoots is weird. You could be like the Portland Big Feet. That's odd.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, the Portland Big Feet. And then Sasquatches, that's not any better. Like,
yeah, Sasquatch is such a beautiful word.
It is.
Sasquatch.
Then you add a plural and it becomes kind of weird. Sasquatches.
Yeah, Sasquatches doesn't really work. That's the hard thing.
Sasquatch is great.
Yeah, and it's hard. There are some people fighting for the singular mascot, like is it not Arizona? The Stanford Cardinal. They are not the Stanford Cardinals. They are the Stanford Cardinal. Just one.
I don't like that because it's odd. There's not just one.
There's only one for them.
That's a conspiracy. That's what
Speaking
that
of conspiracy, what is our conspiracy we're talking about? I'm taking us off the rails before we've even gotten going.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. What we are talking about today is, if any of this is true, an epidemic of sorts. Apparently, there are a lot of famous musicians out there that have been replaced. Yes.
Bum.
Replaced with a different person, replaced with a clone. For various reasons people aren't entirely clear on most of the time. There are a lot of well-known musicians that people have come up with the idea that they're not them anymore. They were them, and now they are somebody else who is pretending to be them.
Is the general thought that that the first musician in this situation has died or has been like murdered or something, or just they're not doing it anymore?
You know what? It varies.
Because I should say, you're not talking about like how Bon Scott was replaced by Brian Johnson in AC/DC. You're talking about someone being replaced and it theoretically still being or being presented to be the original, even though it's a replacement.
Exactly. That is what I'm talking about. Now, sometimes that is supposedly because that person has died. Sometimes it's just cause. I don't know why. Yeah. Let's replace them. So let's get into our first replacement theory story. Is that I don't know how to present these. Replacement theory? Does that work? Clone theory?
Replacement theory, clone theory. These all seem like titles of movies that maybe exist or don't.
All right. The first one I'm going to start with is somebody who is very relevant to our specific demographic and age. Okay. A lot of people may not remember him as fondly as I do, even though he's largely still active from what I can tell. Kat Dennings is a big fan of this man, and I'm a big fan of Kat Dennings. So I have to like him. I can't, there's nothing I can do about this. Today, I present to you segment 1, Andrew W.K.
Oh, yes. I'm surprised that he's as relevant to our core demographic of preteen Korean women, or girls rather. But that's good to know.
You're surprised?
Maybe I'm not. Andrew W.K. I haven't thought about Mr. Party in a little while.
I think about him all the time.
Do you?
I love me some Andrew W.K. I have always loved Andrew W.K. And the reason I was thinking about him most recently is I was revisiting the old Melissa Cross Zen of Screaming course, and he's featured prominently in that. So
I forgot about that. She's the scream doctor, right? The one that taught all the post-hardcore guys how to scream and not blow their voices out.
Yep. Most famously, Randy Blythe from our artist, Lamb of God, and a bunch of others. So yeah, she's kind of a wizard with that. But Andrew W.K. was one of them as well. So Andrew W.K., I want to do a little bit of explanation on who these people are. Some of them won't really need it, but just for the people who found this and are confused. Andrew W.K.
Yeah, do it.
Was, would you call him he's not really a hardcore guy, but definitely not a soft rock guy either.
No, he's like one of those many guys that like presented harder than the music is. Mm-hmm. And so he like kind of gets like Danzig is this way in some ways too. Mm-hmm. But I don't think the Andrew W.K. music's like that heavy. But that album cover, which like that is one of the better album covers of all time, where he's just like bleeding out of around his mouth and everything.
You're talking about his most popular album, I Get Wet, right?
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah, it's just his face, and he's just bleeding profusely out of his nose. Mm-hmm. And it looks like, what kind of horrorcore album is this going to be?
My parents would not have allowed me to buy that album back in the day when they were, if they had a pick. They'd just be like, this can't be good.
It can't be. There's no way this is going to be a positive influence. But joke's on them. It was all about partying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Andrew W.K., for those of you that don't know, party, like, when I think of partying, I'm like, oh, that guy parties too much. I'm like, he's doing, drugs that the names are mostly just numbers. And staying up for days at a time. But Andrew W.K., even though that maybe that was what he was talking about at one point, has turned partying into a philosophy, right? Like it's this positivist life philosophy about how we should all be partying all the time.
Yeah, it's more about it's like an updated version of the hippie messaging, but a little more wild, but a little more edgy, but not dangerous. Like partying is positive, and he's not talking about doing lines of blow. He's talking about just, when you just, without any real external influence, you just have a good time. You're sitting around on the back porch with your buddies, just hanging out, not doing anything nefarious, just having a good time. That's what Andrew W.K. is about. Eating pizza, just having a positive experience. I think that's what he means, not to put words in his mouth, but that's what I extracted out of Andrew W.K.'s music.
Big time. And I think to me, it does ring of someone who wasn't talking about that initially, but became Mr. Party and needed the Mr. Party thing to like follow. He needed the concept of party to follow his own evolution. And thus it evolved alongside him to fit this. But anyway, without debating the philosophical underpinnings of Andrew W.K.'s partying, I did not know that he was replaced by a new Andrew W.K.
It's a little So it's a little bit less of a replacement theory in this case, and more of a who is Andrew W.K. Like, who is this man? And so he just kind of exploded on the scene out of nowhere. His songs are very upbeat, raw rock and roll, but like with some different keyboard elements and very bouncy. And he has a very aggressive voice, but not in a scary way, just more of an excited way. And he has an album credit on that his most popular record, I Get Wet. It's tied to somebody named Steve Mike. Okay. Steve, which first of all, never trust a man.
Mike's not a last name. Yeah.
You never trust a man with two first names. That's or anybody, man, woman, child, Bigfoot, whatever. So he is allegedly an original manager for him. And he started claiming it's so hard to understand what was going on. There was like a mini documentary about this back in the day that I remember watching, but I cannot find on YouTube anymore. There's hacked websites that were supposedly Steve Mike stating that he was Andrew W.K. And then there's these conflicting reports from Andrew that he is saying like Andrew W.K. is a concept, right? And not a person. And that Andrew W.K. is actually Steve Mike. Okay. And
so this has been done before. This is the Andy Kaufman, Tony Clifton thing.
A little bit.
Like Tony Clifton is allegedly Andy Kaufman.
Yes. It is a little bit that. And so this is what people are using to say, like, there was somebody named Steve Mike who created the Andrew W.K. persona. And then some point that flipped and Steve Mike became a different person named Andrew W.K., but was actually like a completely different person. Like Steve Mike didn't want to be Andrew W.K. anymore. So he found somebody else to be Andrew W.K.
I see. So Andrew W.K. is like a Dread Pirate Roberts sort of scenario. Andrew W.K. is whoever is wearing that, the white jumpsuit.
Yeah. And so some of the evidence that people are presenting, and, again, all this evidence is in air quotes for pretty much all this entire episode will be air quotes, just so you know. Some people are saying like, okay, there's some facial inconsistencies here. He's got a broader nose later on, and he's got like slightly different teeth, and he looks a little bit different. And his personality, at least how he presented, shifted. And I wonder if the more logical thing is actually what you talked about, where he was doing the other kind of partying, and then it got too much. And he had to like, hold on, I need to rein it back in and get the positive party back. So they're saying there's a personality shift. His early interviews are really chaotic, and he's kind of doing the Tom Cruise on Oprah Winfrey thing for a very timely reference, as I'm sure all the kids are well aware of that famous interview where Tom Cruise is jumping on the couch and all that good stuff. But Andrew was really chaotic, and later he gets in like this calm, more philosophical kind of way of speaking, where like he talks about the party, like what we were talking about before, as a concept. And there's all these like court documents that refer to disputes over the name. It's so like chopped up and weird. And the Steve Mike like element, Andrew's like acknowledged it and then also just been like, nah. So it's very, very weird. And now he kind of embraces this as like part of the musical identity. He almost like uses it as a wall, to separate, how these days we're so used to artists just being like, I'm going to get coffee. Look at me. You know everything about my life. That was not the way it was in the early 2000s and prior. We didn't know anything about these people. And so they had to craft these personas that we would see. And I think this is Andrew's way of maintaining that.
I was just looking at some photos, and one observation is that young Andrew W.K., who was a model apparently early on, is a babe. He looked great. I was like, wow, look at that. So good for him. But I was looking at some comparisons I found one of these websites that you've been spending some time on. And those are the same guy. It's got like a column of like 2003 versus 2008. Those are all the same dude. He's just older and looks a little different. And he's also been touring for a while. And anybody, I mean, this is our world, but like anyone that you meet who's been out on the road for 5 years looks like they've aged 15 years.
Also, speaking as somebody who has changed lifestyles a lot and looks absolutely nothing like I did in 2005, like you would be like, it wouldn't even be, it'd be hilarious to do a side by side with me. It's a completely different human.
Does it look like the guy on your old driver's license?
No.
Oh, really? Because
No.
I know that guy.
No,
that just looks like young Blake.
Yeah, you got to see young Blake. Young Blake's like 150 and like blonde, like blonde. And I didn't dye my hair; it just turned dark. I look so different. And then Andrew also, he's a big proponent of exercise, and he has gotten way more jacked as he's gotten older. He's clearly like bigger in every way than he was back when he was young. So,
which is a common thing that occurs these days. There were not so many jack dudes in their 40s and 50s back in the 90s.
Yeah, you make a good point. It was if a guy was in good shape in those days, he was usually a little slimmer.
our ideals, and this is a whole other episode, but our ideals of optimal male body has changed significantly over the years. I always think of the Wolverine comparison of Hugh Jackman, who I remember at the time in the first Wolverine being like, wow, that guy is shredded. And now he looks like a coder compared to, because now it's like steroid use is so rampant that anyway, I don't want to get into all of that. That I forced us to get into. So that's on me.
So that pretty much wraps up the general Andrew W.K. Now, again, with all of these subjects, we could probably do a whole episode on each of them and go bit by bit by bit. But what I think happened with Andrew W.K. is probably the same thing that I would have done if I was him. He just embraced it and kind of turned it into an art project, which I kind of love, to be honest.
I give great. This one on like the conspiracy, level. I give this like a 1 out of 10. I'm not buying it, but I totally understand. Like it's a common thing. Like Father John Misty's kind of the same thing where it's like you create this persona. Larry the Cable Guy, same thing.
Oh,
that guy is not like that. No. He had a bunch of characters and that was the one that people really liked. And so that became his act. And I think after a while that just becomes you. I think that's once it becomes hard to take that mask off.
Yeah. I mean, to some degree, you are who you pretend to be. You want to present as a certain way. And if you do that often enough, that does become you to a degree.
Johnny Depp never stopped being Jack Sparrow. He was like that was not like how he acted before then. And then he was like always kind of like the sensitive young boy. And then once he like did that character, he's like, that's who I want to be. This is great. Yep. I'll be this in everything else now.
And to be fair, if I could be Jack Sparrow, that seems like a pretty good time. Let's be real.
Yeah, why would you, if you're like spending all day being Jack Sparrow, why go back to not being Jack Sparrow?
Exactly.
Which is a perfect segue into our next person.
It's not.
Okay. I didn't know who it was. I was just hoping that there was a pirate thread.
I'm trying really hard. I wish I could say it was Keira Knightley or something, but that wouldn't make a lot of sense.
It would be a good segue into one of two people that were both musician guests on Pirates of the Caribbean, either Keith Richards or Sir Paul McCartney.
Oh, foreshadowing. We're not getting into Paul just yet. Bum, bum, bum. No, first, this one is a little... Well, how do we say it? It's a little complicated. Do you have any guess?
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. You're talking about Miss Avril Lavigne.
Avril Lavigne. Why'd you have to go and make things so complicated?
Canada's finest. I remember, she was huge.
Huge.
In the early 2000s. And it's so funny. At the time, it made sense to me how we were so concerned with like whether somebody was authentic or a poser at the time.
So concerned. As if that mattered. This is a thing
that, from my old millennial perch I sit on, this is one of the biggest changes I've seen generation to generation is that, and I'm not necessarily for the worse or anything, but it was very like, for us, it was still like, are you a punk or are you not a punk? She was wearing the trappings of a punk, but wasn't a punk, or that was the idea. And that was a whole thing, even though being a punk meant just what store you were shopping at in the mall for the most part, which is not that authentic. But nowadays, now you can crib anything from anywhere. Be like, oh, I got this from this style. And this is, 1960s grandma style that I'm pulling from here and all that. And so it's a lot more freeing. But at one time or another, for our younger viewers, you were in or you were out.
Yep.
When it came to a lot of stuff. And Avril Lavigne was the I think the single biggest flashpoint of the McCarthyism of posers.
The McCarthyism of posers. I think I've never heard it described that way, but I now see like
there were Senate hearings and everything.
I see some guy sitting up there with a Liberty spikes and a nose ring and tats all over and being like, not punk.
Mm-hmm.
Not punk. You're accused of being not punk rock.
Yep. And it was real. People were real.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is actually one of the people that I thought of when you were telling me about people being replaced, because I remember just some loose threads about this, but I'm sure that you remember full tight threads of this.
The thing is, it's not really any more clear than Andrew W.K.'s. Really, okay. It comes from a very similar place, but let's talk about that a little bit. So the theory came from and this goes way back further than I realized. It comes from 2005, actually, when she was very huge. I mean, she's still
this
everybody
is peak Avril.
Yeah, everybody still knows who she is. It's not like her star has really faded that much, but this is when she was rising. She was like the it girl in the pop punk world. And so 2005, a Brazilian blog claiming Avril died shortly after her big album drop in 2003. So the blog is titled Avril está morta. So
Avril is dead.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
To translate for our non-Spanish speaking listeners.
And so there's various claims about how it happened. Some say car wreck. Some say it was a very sad like suicide because her grandfather died. And some say she didn't die. Some say she was just sick of it. She was done. But she was so huge. I mean, she has, or had, I don't think she still has, but she had a huge line of clothes in Kohl's. Like she was, I'm trying to like paint a picture for how big she was. Cause she's, like I said, she's fallen a little bit, but she's still an enormous star. And just during that time, it was like Avril was everywhere, just absolutely everywhere.
Yeah,
and
the plaid pants and the like, you know, the chunky like studded, like 3-row studded belt and everything. There was very low rise because it was early 2000s, which is life now again. Apparently, it was a distinct style, and yeah, she was the one to bring it to the masses.
So she was supposedly replaced by a body double named Melissa Vandella.
This one has a name. We have a name for the replacement.
Yeah, Melissa Vandella, and who was hired originally to help her avoid paparazzi, supposedly. Which
this is like the second Bono that Bono has. Bono allegedly has a body double that he sends really for his own convenience to places that he doesn't want to go to, so that Bono can be there and all that, which makes some sense. I mean, you really need like you'd need like 4,000 Bonos to satisfy the global demand for Bonos at a given time.
Oh, yes, at least.
You need a lot more than one. That's for sure.
A lot more. So having one is helpful.
This girl, is she real? Like, this is like a person that has a social security number? Or?
That's what I haven't been able to establish. If this was indeed real or if it's a complete fabrication. So supposedly she was hired for public appearances, and then Avril died or decided not to be in the spotlight anymore. And there's this whole industry around her. Literally, there's millions and millions of dollars generated off of her, specifically her. She's not even a band. It's her. You know, she has a band, but she is the artist. So you could replace the guitar player, you know, get a different guitar player in there. It doesn't really matter. No one's going to have a conspiracy theory about that. She just got a new guitar player, but you can't replace her. Just like you can't replace Bono. Doesn't really work.
No, doesn't work at all.
U2's a band, but Bono is Bono, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like Ashley Simpson tried to be Avril Lavigne, and that didn't work so great. So I mean, clearly it's Avril or bust.
Exactly. So it's the same thing. They're pointing to like a little different skin tone. They're saying her fashion sense even is different, which I think is kind of that doesn't mean anything, right? Everybody's changes their fashion sense a little bit at least. Come on. I used to wear a cowboy hat every day.
What? You did what?
I used to wear a cowboy hat every day in high school.
Why?
Because I wanted to. You didn't know this about me?
That's amazing. There was a guy in my high school that wore a cowboy hat every day, and he also had like longhorns on the front of his truck, but he was from Texas.
Oh, well, see, I grew up riding horses and stuff, even though I am from Oregon, and I liked cowboy hats. And I also liked all of this hot topic metalcore emo punk rock stuff. So I was basically dressed like that with a cowboy hat on.
That's amazing. Like kind of Pantera style, like Vinnie Paul.
No,
he wasn't like punk, I guess, but you know.
No. It was a more standard issue, like tan cowboy hat with band tees. That was kind of my vibe. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't do
like
that
skinny
anymore.
jeans and everything. I'm kind of getting like Matthew McConaughey, Dallas Buyers Club vibes in my head when I'm thinking it through. I'm sure that's not what it was.
I said I was skinny. I wasn't quite that skinny.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah, it was a little different vibe than that. No, it was just like, I don't know, say like regular skater dude punk rock with a cowboy hat on. That was just
Hell
kind of didn't really go the skinny jean route so much. That came later. Again, like changing fashion, that came later.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but I take your point. Yeah, the fashion doesn't mean anything. But her skin tone's a little bit. Do you feel like she looks different between Avril 1 and Avril 2?
I feel like it's exactly like what we were talking about with Andrew W.K. It's just she got a little bit older.
She got a little older.
Yeah. And she still looks incredible, really.
Yeah.
Like, she looks great. She's 39 or something. She looks
should
like
be older than that. That doesn't feel right. But
she
you're
got
right.
started
She was never that much older than me.
Yeah, she got started so young. She was always right around our age. So I think she's just
a lot more successful than us.
Yeah, well, she's it's almost like if you're talented and good looking, that goes a little ways, you know?
Yeah. You know who would know? You know who knows the answer to whether that's the original Avril or not?
Who?
Chad Kroeger from Nickelback.
Yeah.
They were married for a time. She was with Derek from Sum 41 and then Chad, and then I don't know if they're still together or if it's somebody different.
You know what he could do? He could be like, look at this photograph. Like same lady. Mm-hmm.
I teed that up for you.
I've been looking for an excuse to say that line at some point. You really handed that one to me.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that. That was the moment.
So there's a couple other things. There's lyrics on later albums. Again, this is all just like, to me, like she's just getting older. She was a kid when the start all started. Yeah, I just don't see it. There's some other stuff. So like lyrical themes, yeah, and like again, they keep bringing up like different pants. I'm like, this is stupid. Come on. But so what people are saying is they've got like facial moles. There's like some moles that are different, like under her like right eyebrow, and then there's one that's kind of under her chin, and they say it appears to be inconsistent across different eras. Again, those can be removed, or your face changes a little bit and it's now in a slightly different position. This happens.
Yeah,
like the
skin does weird stuff.
Jawline and nose shape they're saying is different. I'm like, again, she's just a little bit older. These things change. She got started when she was a teenager. Almost none of us look the same as when we were a teenager.
I haven't heard anyone saying Courtney Cox is a different person, even though she looks a lot different than she did in Friends.
What? She must have been replaced. They must have replaced her. They've got
one injection at a time.
She's like, are you suggesting that Courtney Cox is a ship of Theseus as a person?
I am indeed suggesting that.
Hey, whatever works for you. I guess maybe there's something to that. So they're saying that her handwriting's different. The autographs in 2002, 2003 compared to 2007 look different. I'm like, again, mine look different. I don't even worry about it anymore. Just like squiggle line there. I've signed something. Granted, I'm not signing things for people to like auction off. So maybe it'd be a little bit more thoughtful, but yeah, I just don't even down to like they're saying like, well, look. In this era, she had pink highlights and cheerleader skirts. And in this era, she doesn't. Like,
so this is just some dumb Tumblr shit is what's going on
here. Dude, that is funny because I was about to bring up this theory was largely pushed on Tumblr and Reddit and a little bit on Twitter/X these days. But it also comes up. This is where maybe there is a little something to the conspiracy. Not that it's actually that she's been replaced, but this always seems to flare up during new album cycles.
Oh, new album cycles. Yes, that makes more sense.
During Mardi Gras. Yes.
I wasn't sure if there was a topical
Don't you know that Avril's always at Mardi Gras? Famous Canadian celebration. I don't know.
I mean, the French Canadians do indeed do Mardi Gras.
Well, that's true.
The joke's on you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
but yes, exactly. So this is like some nice stuff that gives people something to talk about and be concerned about around the time there's a new record for you to buy or a tour ticket for you to buy.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, so that one, again, I plant all these in kind of the same camp, but I'm just like, this is just somebody who's been famous since they were, 14 or 15,
very young,
and has been famous since then and never really stopped. Just been constantly in the spotlight, maybe slightly less famous than they once were, but still pretty famous. So
yeah, and she drew
Yeah.
some ire, and honestly, I mean, like, I think that this is just an extension of many things about Avril Lavigne that now that I'm older, I can say. At the time, I was also, I think, a hater. But now it does seem like we held like the one like lady punk to a very different standard than we did like the guys from Sum 41 or anyone else that we just assumed were like totally credible real punks.
Well, I think it would depends because like she was just I do think that is correct, but there are some exceptions. Like Brody from the Distillers was always pretty legit to everybody.
Yeah,
because she was like, but
That's
she
fair.
also was screaming. So there's that. She was really aggressive. So that there maybe is something to the fact that Avril was, and so the other bands you mentioned. Don't get me wrong, but Avril was straight up playing pop music with distorted guitars.
For sure. And some very mild distorted guitars in the mix overall. It was
Sure.
You're right. You're absolutely that is absolutely true.
But let's not sit. I agree. I'm with you. I was also a hater. Now I've flipped. I listen to those songs and I'm like, you know what? This is a bop. Okay.
Yep.
Let's call it what it is. This is an earworm. It's great writing. It's a lot of fun. And that's what it always was. And it was always supposed to be. So
just pop music, baby.
Yep. Which is just fine.
Money
Just fine.
music.
So moving on to somebody with how should I say this? One of the most delicious faces in music.
Seal?
No, no, not
It
Seal.
was just the first thought I was free associating.
Yeah, not Seal. You're not even really in the right ballpark at all, actually. This is a man who goes by the name Gucci Mane.
Oh, Gucci Mane with of course, with the ice cream cone.
Yeah,
and the ice cream paint job. Yes,
Yep.
I am familiar.
Yeah, you're probably more familiar with Gucci than I am. I know him primarily as that guy with the ice cream cone tattooed on his face. And that
I just like doing that.
yeah. That's right. So this one's a little bit different, and again, I think has a very, very straightforward explanation. So Gucci, he was a little chunky, as somebody who has ice cream tattooed on their face would probably be, right? So in 2016, he got out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
And this is so funny to me because basically he got happier. He got in better shape. He stopped slurring his words so much and had a more positive outlook on life. Therefore, he was replaced by a government cloning operation that is growing celebrities in test tubes.
Oh, baby.
Yep.
Oh, see this is what I was waiting for. This is what I was waiting for. It just being something simple like they hired one of the many people who would gladly become a celebrity for like, meager funds, like for some money and no royalties. I much prefer that the government was growing people in test tubes and that instead of like making a new Albert Einstein, they were like, we're going to make Gucci Mane.
We're going to make Gucci Mane.
That's amazing. Hell yeah. This is absurd.
And that is the bulk of this theory, right? The bulk is he went to prison, which is that's not up for debate. He definitely went to prison for a few years.
And someone else came out.
But Scott, I mean, how many people have you ever heard of? I mean, this is ridiculous. This is such a silly thing. You've never heard of anybody that went to prison and got jacked. That's never happened. No.
How would you find the time to be able to do something like that?
Yeah. There's not been one documented case of a human being going into the United States prison system and coming out in great shape because they had nothing but time to do push-ups and squats and
those were the best things they could do to prevent worse things from happening to them while they were incarcerated.
Yes. So that seems to be a huge chunk of the Gucci theory is that, well, he's sober and he's like happy and he's in good shape now and he's not being wild. He's
can't be
cloned.
him.
He's cloned. And they were like, well, how did they do that? He was in prison. How are they going to do the swap? And like, who would they swap him with? I mean, he still has the tats and government test tubes. Apparently there is a raging theory, not just about Gucci, but about lots of celebrities that they were not only replaced, but some of them were grown organically in these government labs and then thrust out into the public so that they can, what do you think, Scott? Why would they want to do this?
I couldn't imagine. I have no idea.
So they can use their resources, their wealth, and their influence to make all of us think a certain way, like the sheeple that we are. Mm-hmm.
And so, granted, I don't know as many Gucci Mane songs as many people I'm sure do. But the few that I can kind of run through quickly in my head here, I can't think about how it would advantage the United States government for me to want an ice cream paint job, for example. I think I'm remembering the Gucci Mane did ice cream paint job. He has the song with Migos that I really like. That was a couple years ago when two of the three Migos were still alive. But I really like it because I can't remember the name or anything. It's called Slippery. Yeah, Slippery. Anyway, but like the Migos guys, like at some point they would always do like skirt, like as a thing. It's kind of like a quieter one, so they go skr skr, and it's like a melodic like skr 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 skr. And they just started singing the skr sound effect to be its own thing, and that's beautiful. That is creative invention.
So going down that trail just a little bit. Now, again, I'm not as familiar with Gucci's work as I am Queen Avril, for instance.
Sure,
but his pre-prison songs, there's one called Lemonade and one called Bricks.
Yes.
Yeah. And those are just, as you can imagine, violence, drug dealing. I'm the man.
And codeine.
Yeah, codeine. Yep.
Syrup.
Love it. Syrup. Got a sip on it. So, wow, that was the whitest thing I've ever said in my life.
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah.
That was bad. That was like, hello, fellow kids. Are you listening to that hippity hop?
That 3-6-6-6 Mafia.
Oh man, I do love 3-6 Mafia.
I know. They're the one that's sipping on. Anyway,
yeah,
those guys definitely weren't replaced.
Those guys never could not be
coming up on this episode.
No, 3-6 Mafia could never be replaced. Man, that's great. I'm gonna listen to them today at the gym. Yes, it's good.
I don't even have a collar to pop.
I love 3-6 Mafia. Anyway, so I forget sometimes how much I love
this
them.
about you, but I
they're
support
great.
it.
I mean, the horrorcore thing, of course, it gets me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, then post prison, he gives First Day Out the Feds and Tone It Down. And the whole thing about those songs is he's just like reflecting on the choices he made and like just trying to be polite, and he's expressing gratitude and mental clarity and sobriety. And apparently, like, improving as a human means you're a clone.
Fair.
Yeah. So he's more family focused now. I mean, again, this is another example of somebody just getting older and wiser too. Yeah. He's just getting older, and he's like, wait a minute, I would probably die if I continued that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he was always slurring words and stuff. I do remember this, him in interviews just being like, he would barely be able to talk sometimes. And I was like, this ice cream guy is able to rap? He can barely speak. Like, what is going on? Yeah.
Kinda. Yeah. There's the foreshadowing of the mumble rap that came to follow.
Yes.
But a better version of it, I think.
But there is one thing though. Gucci, much like, again, the aforementioned Andrew W.K, he's not saying he's not.
Sure.
He says on Instagram, he actually said, I'm a clone. I don't argue with the old Gucci.
Good. I love it. I would embrace it too.
Yes. So Gucci theory, do you think it is possible? And maybe we've already answered this. Do you think it's possible that you could reinvent yourself to such a degree that people would think you were a clone and not your original self?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think I would. There's nothing I could do to not have that weird walk that I have. It's just going to always be there.
That's an interesting point. I mean, like, I could reinvent myself to such a point that no one would think that I was me, I guess. It's weird to, like, I would still be me in this scenario, but just such a different me that people are like, who could you be? I would just never jump to that. Like when Mark Zuckerberg went from like being a robot to like new Mark Zuckerberg that wears t-shirts like this and a necklace like this. Shit. Now that I think about it. And
I'm glad you said it, because I was about to.
God damn it. and has very nice watches. Anyway, that very much was his press team being like, we want to reinvent Mark Zuckerberg as an approachable, cool guy, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I would never think like they cloned him. I mean, yeah. Why would you get a clone of someone just to make them different? Anyway, sorry.
I agree. I'm pretty sure that what happened is Gucci went into prison and went, this sucks. I should turn my life around. And then did.
Yeah. I mean, the idea
happened.
is like, if they did clone him, I get the size of it. I get that they're like, it's really close, but they made a few mistakes. And then overall, it's the direction of the music that's changed, because now that it's a clone and they can, the government's puppeteering him, they can do this. So I don't know. This is crazy, is what I have to say.
It's pretty crazy. I don't buy it. But speaking of puppets, we're going to talk about somebody who has been a puppet a couple times, at least once, if I'm remembering correctly. I hope I segued that properly. Otherwise, it's going to feel really stupid. But the next one is Slim Shady.
Oh, on Crank Anchors? Was that when he was a puppet?
That's what I was thinking of. Yep.
Yeah.
I think he was actually on that, right? They weren't playing him. I think he was actually on
I think it was him. Yeah. I think I remember that too. That seems like exactly what he would have done at that period of time.
It does. And that actually ties right into this theory, right? So this one's kind of, it's a little darker, but still just as ridiculous in some ways. So they're saying when he OD'd in, I believe it was 2006, if that memory serves. Wait, I have notes for this. Yes, 2006. And he apparently died. And everything. I don't think
I realized he OD'd. So like in real life, he OD'd?
He did. Yes.
On like painkillers, I assume?
On methadone.
Oh.
Yeah. Because he had methadone because he was trying to get off of the painkillers. And then, I mean, this is all what I'm reading. I don't know what actually happened, obviously, but it seems like he OD'd on methadone and died. That's what people think. They think he died. And the M that we've seen since then is, again, test tube clone, just like Gucci.
So 2006 would have been after the Marshall Mathers LP, but before the Eminem show. Am I remembering that right chronologically?
I think that is correct. Yes.
Eminem albums through the magic of the internet. Oh, no. Marshall Mathers LP was 2000. Eminem show was 2002. Encore was 2004. After that point, he had kind of lost me. And then Relapse came out in 2009.
2009. Okay. Yeah. And then he did, I didn't come back to Eminem really until Rap God, maybe, which is quite a bit later. That's 2013. And then I went backwards again, but so maybe the why I don't buy this one is because I wasn't paying as much attention, but you do have to lend some credence to some of these things. I don't think he was cloned, obviously, but he is a different person substantially. He was a goofball. Remember, he had so much humor injected into everything. And then at some point that all kind of went away.
It did. And again, I think he got I think what's funny to me is the notion that like the last like real Eminem single was Ass Like That. Because that was Encore. They're like, no, up to that point, totally consistent. This is the true artist himself. But after that, it could never be topped again. But I know what you're talking about. Like he was very silly. And this is another case of someone who like considered Marshall Mathers to be a character that he was playing. For sure. Which I think as he got older has been difficult for him to come to terms with, especially with realizing that like, he's...
Is that backwards? Is Slim Shady the character?
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for correcting.
Yeah.
Slim Shady is the character. Marshall Mathers is the man.
Yes.
But yeah, he considered himself to be playing the Slim Shady character. And I think that went away over time. He kind of became more of like himself. He started dyeing his hair brown or letting it be brown instead of dyeing it blonde.
So what people are saying is basically he is a government controlled puppet now. And they're citing he has a different vocal tone. His flow is more snappy and kind of like robotic, which I actually really enjoy personally. I like if you listen, I just listened to Rap God when I was preparing for this, and I was like, geez, that guy can deliver some bars. Like there's no mistaking like that. And it is different though than, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Like it's more flowy, but for lack of a better term. And this new quote unquote Eminem is like more staccato, like rapid fire, very like sharp with his delivery.
For me, as like a casual Eminem follower, that change happened with Lose Yourself from the 8 Mile movie. Up to that point, you had those more like slithery things with like so that probably was very weird for anyone listening to this somewhere else, but it made sense in the video. He would have those sorts of beats, and then Lose Yourself, you know, it's like you gotta lose yourself in the music the moment you want. It's just like all in the one. It's like a really, really clear emphasis. More like almost rock and roll in that way. Less good to my eye, but yeah, that changed. And he also, like, his voice deepened. And he stopped talking about the same pop culture stuff. Like, he's not just talking about, you know, Fred Durst and Christina Aguilera.
Fucking sit next to Carson Daly and Fred Durst.
Yeah. We won't do the next line.
Also, he got clean again. Yeah. That's going to impact your delivery. We talked about Gucci. Like, now he is more clear when he raps. And I think Eminem is actually, he was never super hard to understand the way Gucci could be, but he's now more punctuated and more clear, and his lyrics are arguably smarter. Like I think they are in the later years. I mean, he was always very clever, but it almost speaks to, like, that more fluid style speaks to somebody who was on some narcotics.
Maybe, yeah. And I mean, I thought he was brilliant, like, lyrically and everything, but I do think his great talent was he could make a word rhyme with another word that no one else could make rhyme with that word.
Right.
He just had that power of delivery.
Yep. So going a little bit deeper into this, I think we're pretty much on the same page here. It's the same story. He was famous from a very young age, though not as young as Avril, but still pretty young. And he's gotten older. He got sober. He's in, like, good shape now, because people forget there was a time when M was, like, really heavy into drugs. He was also very heavy for him. If you remember that period. That. No. Yeah, he got pretty, not like, oh my goodness, this guy is morbidly obese, but he definitely got heavy for him. And then he got in better shape again. And
I forgot Brittany Murphy was in 8 Mile. I was just doing a little digging on 8 Mile. I forgot about that movie.
There's not musical, obviously, but there's a lot of conspiracies around that one as well.
Around Brittany Murphy? No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. But not to get down that dark rabbit hole. But anyway, Eminem also is apparently either a test tube baby like Gucci Mane, or possibly the other theory is that he is from MK Ultra, and he is here to influence us into doing what the government wants.
Let me tell you why I think that it makes more sense in this case than in most of them, even though I'm not going to buy it. I will make I have two primary reasons that I believe that. Number one, Eminem was very influential.
Huge.
Very influential. I wanted to, like, buzz my hair and dye it blonde, and so did, like, every other kid in the world. Like, he if you're going to think about investing your time and resources as a government into influencing people one way or the other, that is a person that was influential enough to do it, much more so than anyone that we brought up before. Now, granted, he was, like, making fun of Dick Cheney and stuff, and if anyone in the early 2000s is in charge of some program that is, like, secretly manipulating the American populace, it's Dick Cheney.
Oh, yeah.
So that's hard to believe unless it's a cover. But the other reason that I think that this makes some sense is if you look at Eminem, especially the early Eminem, he has some, like, 11 from Stranger Things vibes to him with the buzz cut. He does look like a man who came from a test tube.
who was in perhaps Montauk for a time, just thrown out of place, just a random place. No reason I mentioned that place in particular, unless you Google. We won't get into that today. That's for another time. Okay.
we just leaving that one there and hard cutting to the next person? Let's do it.
Yeah, we are. Well, there's not much else to say, like realistically.
Is there?
Google the Montauk Projects. Anyway, we'll go into the granddaddy. This is the big finale. This is the one we hinted at earlier. This theory arguably birthed the entire dead celebrity genre of conspiracy. And it started way back when a lot of things we've covered actually started in 1969, the summer of love, baby. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. College students actually began spreading the idea that Paul McCartney had died in a car crash in 1966 and was replaced by a lookalike named William Shears Campbell.
This I know. Yes. Run me through it. Keep going. I'm excited.
Yes. Again, there's not as much here. I mean, I shouldn't say there's not as much. It's the same thing. I actually wanted to do a whole episode originally on the Paul McCartney replacement, and I probably could have. Thing is, there's a whole documentary you can watch, quote unquote, documentary that you can watch. This whole episode is quote unquote, as I said before. So in 1969, Detroit DJ Russ Gibb, on what was the radio
relation
station?
To the other of the brothers Gibb, aka the Bee Gees?
I mean, I didn't hear the actual broadcast, but I could imagine it being like, Paul McCartney is dead and he died in a car crash many years ago, or something like that. Yeah.
It's an inherited trait.
Yeah. They can't really deliver anything other than that way.
No.
That's just, how it is. No, he received a call on air from a listener to play Revolution 9 backwards. So that was where most people got this idea. What was the radio station? I had it wrote down for some WKNR-FM. WKR-FM. Whoa, we're talking about Paul McCartney. Has he been dead this whole time?
It kills me when you do that. I've got to learn how to be able to like react to it, but I can't. It's too much for me.
Turns out you play Revolution 9 backwards and it says, "Turn me on, dead man," repeatedly over and over again.
Turn me on, dead man.
Have you heard this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was in middle school when like this whole conspiracy made its way into my brain.
Okay.
And it was very fascinating.
Oh, I didn't know about this until my early 20s. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So I didn't hear any of this. Let's see. Let's go through some more of the evidence. So that's where most people basically got the idea. Was this broadcast went out, a bunch of college kids heard it. They played the record backwards themselves. They heard the thing, and here we go. Paul's dead. I don't know why "Turn Me On, Dead Man" means anything, being real.
No, I thought it was an odd message to put in there. And was this the first example of backwards playing satanic messages?
As far as I know, I mean,
because Zeppelin's the big one, right?
Yeah, Black Sabbath and Zeppelin Zeppelin's the biggest, I think.
Yeah, I'm just like having heard that when you're like, wow, that's weird that you took put the time in to do this, didn't you?
Yeah, or did they? Or did it just happen? Things just happen sometimes.
No. I mean, it's been a while, but what does the Zeppelin backwards thing say?
Something sweet Satan.
Yes, yeah. My sweet Satan.
But I've heard it and it doesn't. I'm like, that just sounds like it kind of accidentally happened. It doesn't sound like, it's not as clear as we're saying it. It's more like it's a little bit of a reach. I think it's a reach.
I mean, know. I've heard it and it's kind of creepy. But that's a fair point. I think that if you were recording it backwards so that it would sound normal, played the other way or whatever, like if you were doing it on purpose, it would sound weird in the actual recording. And then when you turned it around, so to speak, you would hear it sounding kind of clear, like Missy Elliott's "Work It."
Yes, that's a great example, actually. Yes.
Whereas if it'd be very difficult, like if you had to do a vocal take and it was like, all right, give us a take 35 on this one, make it so that it says "My Sweet Satan" backwards when you replay it. Just give me one take like that and let me see how it goes.
And you'd be like, what? But huh? You want me to do what?
Yeah, very difficult.
It'd be very difficult. So
but "Turn Me On, Dead Man," it's clear as a bell. It's like definitely they did that on purpose.
Again, though, what does that even mean?
No, nothing.
It doesn't tell me that. Even if that's really in there, I need to listen to that one again, admittedly, because I remember it being a little garbled myself, but I haven't listened to it in a long time. I should have before this episode.
It's pretty like burned into my brain because I remember hearing it in middle school, but it's like, turn me on, dead men. Turn me on, dead men. It's what it is.
It makes me wonder if they like, this is a purely my theory trying to rationalize why that might be. I wonder if that was some name that they had for an engineer or an intern or something, that, you know how people get names.
Dead man. Yes. I mean, it's true.
I could totally see somebody being dead man. Like,
yeah.
Like, if you do that again, you're a dead man. And then it morphs into, you know, hey, dead man, come bring me that. Hey, dead man. You know, I could totally see be like,
and it could be something you recorded, like it sound like waiting to get your mic turned on or get your monitors on. Like, turn me on, dead man.
I could totally see that. Like, that's just me trying to rationalize as to why you would have even said that in the first place, because it's the only thing that really makes sense to me.
Yeah. I'm a big fan. This is off topic, but I like all of the cases in rap music in which the MC is instructing the engineer to turn their mic on or something.
Yeah.
This happens at the beginning of the Fat Joe and Ashanti and Ja Rule song "What's Love," where Fat Joe starts to be like, "Put the fucking mic on!" Boom, boom, bum, bum, and there's also a Jay-Z song. Is that Hard Knock Life? But he's like, yeah, it is. He's like, put the music up in my headphones. You know, there's a lot of that. They're just like, keep it in there. So I totally buy your thing. It would make sense if like somebody was like, turn me on, dead man. Like give me the mic and the monitor so I can sing it. And then somebody grabbed that and
even the aforementioned Eminem, he's like, I got no snare in my headphones. There's no snare in my headphones.
That's right.
Yep. Which I think it's fun. It kind of like gives you a peek into the creative process of recording, which most people never had back in those days. So that's just my theory. But let's get through some of the more supposed evidence. So we've got Strawberry Fields Forever, classic song, great song. John murmurs, apparently, "I buried Paul" at the end. That's what they say he says.
That was a good murmur.
Was that a good murmur?
Yeah, you did a good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Lennon later said it was cranberry sauce.
Cranberry sauce.
Like,
that doesn't make more sense.
It doesn't make more sense.
Like, the Beatles were doing they were like not that old, and there were some, substances flowing freely, and they were doing a lot of kind of childish, dumb stuff on these incredible recordings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who hasn't? You've been in recording studios before.
Yeah.
You record stupid things all the time.
Yeah, it's like being in a locker room.
Yeah, why wouldn't you say cranberry sauce? Or I buried Paul. Or like, I buried Paul. Like, what if you like did, there was a little competition in the Beatles, like, oh, I buried Paul. Like, I don't know what context it's, I don't know. But cranberry sauce, Strawberry Fields, I don't know. Maybe there's a connection to berries there.
I don't know. I also think it's reasonable to assume, like, what if I just started planting seeds that I had killed you and that you were a new you that in some way suits my my agenda better than the old you? That'd be a lot of fun. I would rather enjoy creating this style of conspiracy, and perhaps I will.
Well, I'll start like behaving slightly differently.
That would work too.
Starting right now is how I talk from here on out. Right. Hello, governor.
He replaced him with an Englishman with. I won't say what I was going to say.
With a speech impediment?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Figuring that was just the best he could do. That was the closest he could get.
Right, what's all this then?
You're moving just northward with your accent every time.
I'll just be full blown in Scotland by the end of the episode.
Yes. Oh yeah. I remember. God. Oh no.
Have I lost all of our listeners from the UK yet?
I don't think it's just the UK. I think for all three of you that are still out there. I remember the I Buried Paul bit. I remember something about the Sgt. Pepper's album cover and how things are pointing.
Yes, that is one. The first one I want to get into though is the Abbey Road cover, which
this is because he's not wearing shoes.
So they're saying it's interpreted as a funeral procession. So John's the priest, Ringo's the undertaker, barefoot Paul is the corpse, and George is the gravedigger. Paul's holding a cigarette in his right hand. He was left-handed, and Paul is slightly out of step from the lines on the road, unlike the others. So
the idea is you brought.
I think he was holding a cigarette in that hand so that you could see it. That's why I think he was holding a cigarette in that hand. And as somebody who has smoked cigarettes, I could smoke with both hands.
I could. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I smoked for many years, and I got pretty good at it. So I was capable of doing that with both hands for sure.
Now, granted,
among
it was
a variety of other tricks.
It was mostly right hand, but there was many times where I'd have a drag on a cigarette with my other hand.
I'm not writing cursive. It's relatively easy to drag a cigarette with your left hand.
Well, I know when my kids started school, they were trying to figure out which hand they needed to write with, and they asked them. Well, they asked them like, "Well, which one do you smoke cigarettes with?" Yeah. Yeah, that's how they figure it out these days.
That helps.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were doing that in elementary school these days.
Yeah. It's just easier. Yeah, just ask the kid which hand he smokes with.
The Pacific Northwest sounds amazing. I gotta get out there more.
Yeah. Which hand does your dad put your joint in? Mm-hmm. That's how it works.
That's the one you're gonna want to use.
Yeah, it'll be easier to write your first name.
But so the idea is they brought in fake Paul, the guy, but then like busied him for the next many years with like, hey, we're gonna just keep talking about how we killed the other Paul, and you're gonna need to like play along with this in all this variety of ways.
Yeah, come on, Billy, get it together.
Yeah,
Paul, Billy, Paul, William,
come
Campbell.
Together.
Yeah, over me. Dun, dun, dun.
So that was about Tim Leary.
Oh right, sure. Was it really?
Yeah. John Lennon wrote it as like a form of like campaign song when Tim Leary wanted to run for governor of California. That's like one of my least favorite Beatles songs.
I like that song.
Yeah, it's many people like that song. It spawned such incredible things as a really awful Aerosmith cover of it. I didn't like it that much to begin with, but the Aerosmith cover is like way worse.
I haven't heard that.
Sorry, Aerosmith, if you're listening right now. It's not really your fault. They did fine. It's just not what I needed was those two things to come together.
To come together, right?
I know. I'm sorry. I tried to do.
So going to what you were referring to earlier, the Sgt. Pepper's cover. Mm-hmm. So this is where the identity Billy was supposedly introduced. And now I can't remember if this is like inside the credits or where it is, but it's there. Billy Shears, supposedly.
William Shears. Yeah. It's in the intro song.
Oh, right. Of course.
The one and only Billy Shears.
Sgt. Pepper. I'll be honest. Almost all, this is sacrilege to many. All the Beatles songs run together, or not songs, but all the Beatles records run together for me because I didn't get into them until much later in life.
Wow.
So I kind of just listened to them all at the same time, and now I can never remember what's on what.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't like that intro song to Sgt. Pepper's because just the whole like, let me introduce to you the blah, 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 it's just like pretty hokey to me. There's a lot of great songs in that record. To me, the question of the best Beatles records always comes down to Rubber Soul versus Revolver, and I go back and forth a lot. But those each have like a very distinct identity.
Yeah, but when you listen to them all at the same time over the course of like a month, and that's your introduction to the Beatles. It all kind of melds into in your brain. I just I was kind of, speaking of being an idiot, I was just that guy. I was that guy. And I hate to admit it because I'm not that guy anymore.
You're the guy who said the Beatles sucked when you were a teenager?
I did.
There were always those guys, man.
Yep. And I'm trying to be cool, trying to be like, the Beatles suck. Oh yeah, photo Beatlemania is bitten the dust. Yeah, the Clash is better, blah, 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 blah. Such an idiot. You
were saying the Clash was better?
Yeah, well, I still like the Clash better, but that doesn't mean...
I love the Clash, but the Clash are like deeply influenced by the Beatles.
That's the thing. I took that lyric as like a part of my identity. I was like, yeah, Beatlemania, stupid. That. It was dumb. I had no idea whether I liked him or not because I didn't listen to him. So how would I know if I actually liked him? I mean, I did a little bit. Obviously, there was no avoiding exposure to the Beatles entirely. But what little I knew, I was like, whatever. And it wasn't
I was never a freak for it. I mean, even now, like my favorite Beatles songs are kind of the more out of the way, like more psychedelic ones.
I like a lot of it now. I absolutely love Helter Skelter. And that's if you want to hear more about that, listen to our previous episode on Charles Manson. But yeah, I love the Beatles now. It was a very, very stupid thing. So all that to say is like I just didn't have that. I wasn't as in deep with them as everybody else. I just didn't fully. Anyway, it all got kind of rammed in my brain at the same time, and now I don't remember which songs are off which record. So there's that.
Oh, that's interesting. When you when you search Billy Shears, it comes up with Ringo Starr, but I thought Billy was supposed to be Paul on that.
That is
very interesting.
I don't know what Google is doing, but that is what Billy is supposed to be Paul. That is accurate.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. So we got
that's all weird.
This one I remember very distinctly because it's not backmasked or anything. On Glass Onion, you know that part?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like another clue for you all: the walrus was Paul, and where people are reaching, I think a little bit here, but maybe not. The walrus is a symbol of death in Scandinavian folklore. And
so is it? And well, so we can put this all to bed then.
So people are like, well, that's it then. He's dead. And then of course there's like the physical discrepancies. Post 66 Paul appears taller, ear shape, facial like width is different, and there's just I don't know. All that stuff's a bit difficult.
Wasn't there something where like allegedly the original Paul wasn't left-handed and then new Paul was left-handed?
That's what we were talking about. I remember
there being something about that. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about Paul was holding a cigarette in his right hand.
Yeah. But I remember it. Okay. I remember that part. I was thinking people were saying, at least back in middle school, me was thinking they were saying he like switched which side he was playing the guitar with. That
maybe like turned into.
But that'd be weird because he's always playing bass lefty.
He's always, and still to this day, he's playing bass left-handed. But people, I think that's probably like middle school spinning of theories, most likely.
Which does happen.
What? No, you're telling me next thing you're going to tell me that theory about Marilyn Manson isn't true. Anyway, not talking about that one.
No, that one's totally true.
But like. So this is all not happening. People are talking about this. There was even a college newspaper. Let's see, where's this at? Oh, yes. University of Michigan student Fred Labor. He wrote a satirical article listing 28 clues in the Michigan Daily, which was not real. He didn't believe this. It was just pure satire. But the believers in this theory latched onto that like it was the Bible. Like they're like, look at all this stuff. Look, there it is. And he was just totally goofing off.
I think that happens all the time with like primary sources for conspiracies. They're like, well, this guy wrote it down a long time ago. And you're like, well, that doesn't mean anything. That's just some weird notes that somebody wrote down.
I found things that I wrote down 20 years ago. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it makes no sense now.
I didn't like the Beatles 20 years ago, which I hadn't listened to. So how would I know? So, yeah. It's a lot of stuff, and there's more things, but you know, in 1969, it got blown to such proportions that in 1969, Paul was on the cover of Life magazine, and it was like he just denied everything, and he's just going like, no, this is fan obsession. And Life magazine, that may not seem like a big deal now, but that would be like,
well, that's huge.
Going on the only magazine that really mattered at the time. It's like Life and Time. That's pretty much it.
It's wild that they asked him, like, are you dead? Are you the real you?
Are you dead?
Yeah.
and he posed with his family in it. Like, here, I'm really Paul. There it is. But he just says, people must be desperate for entertainment, which I guess,
accurate.
It's still true to this day.
Mm-hmm. When was the crossover point? Do you remember that? Is it in your notes when allegedly Paul was replaced? Was it 60? Did you say 60?
66.
66.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. 66 is when he got in the car crash, which he did get in a car crash in 66.
So between what
that's
albums
true.
would that be?
You're gonna have to tell me, buddy. I told you they're not all the same to me, but they all run together in my brain.
Yeah. I'm gonna find that out real quick because I just have to know.
Tell me more.
See. That would have been okay. So yeah, between Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's, that would be a sort of logical time.
It's definitely. Go ahead.
I don't see the like even looking through the album covers, it all looks like Paul.
It does.
Paul is a distinctive looking guy, and it very much looks like him.
It does. I've never been able to get on board with any of these where they're like, well, look, his face is different. I'm like, dude, people's faces change a lot over the years, and his actually hasn't changed as much as some people's.
No, I mean, money helps, but like, man, does he look like an old version of the pictures of Paul when he's like 18 years old?
Yeah, he really does.
Like, that's that guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I love that photo of you where you're playing the guitar with the violin bow, and you look a lot different than you did then.
But just also saying. Fairly similar.
But also, I don't think just because I haven't seen you with a violin bow that I think you've been replaced.
You never see the violin bow anymore.
No.
Ask him about the violin bow.
Why does he never play guitar with a violin bow anymore?
Yeah, he doesn't have it. The original Scott does.
Yeah. It's the original. There's no way he could ever. Yeah.
I think what's hard about these, so like, I get, some of them make sense where it's like the person died in a car crash or otherwise left, and they're like, we have to like replace them. Like that kind of makes some sense. The idea that they like died and then they replaced them is always weird to me. Because in a lot of cases you're like, they're going to make a lot of money on the catalog if said person died.
Well, but similar to our Sam Cooke episode where we were saying, wouldn't it be better to have him keep going?
Right.
It probably would be.
But I mean, yeah, true. With the Beatles specifically, assuming that it was the Beatles that did this, they didn't tour at any point after Paul allegedly died.
No, but they
just
did
played the rooftop.
They did make records though. Well,
that's true.
How many more records did they make after that? So 66.
A couple.
Yeah.
Which
all probably made them back in the day when making a record, especially if you're the Beatles, means you made a lot of money. So why would they tour?
Because you got Sgt. Pepper's, Magical Mystery Tour, Yellow Submarine, Abbey Road, Let It Be, White Album, and more. I mean, the Beatles' discography is a weird thing because there's more like records than albums, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's odd. Like a lot of the Beatles songs that weren't on an album.
They were singles or
singles exclusively.
Okay, got it. That's also probably why it runs together in my brain.
Yeah, for sure. And some songs appear on multiple albums. Like the Yellow Submarine album has like a couple of distinct songs, but also like a bunch of weird crap on it and some stuff that they're pulling from other albums just to make a full record they could put out.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that is pretty much it. That's what we got. There's probably more, but I tried to pick people that there was a lot of information, quote unquote information on, and also people knew. Andrew W.K. being probably the most obscure, but he's not that obscure. People know who he is.
Oh, he's a thing. I didn't know that he was allegedly that was an alleged replacement one. So that was new to me. I knew the Paul one and I knew the Avril one. And I think I'd heard of the Eminem one as well. But very interesting. People, I think, have too much time on their hands. I don't know that, unlike a lot of our episodes, that there was anything actually lascivious occurring here.
It doesn't appear that way. Although we did mention a few crimes, so that does kind of dovetail into things. But yeah, I wanted to lighten it up a little bit because I'm actually researching a brutal one that's actually kind of hard. There's a lot of death, and it's all unnecessary, and it's very even for my messed up brain who can handle a lot of that stuff and even enjoy it to a degree. The one I've been working on for a couple weeks it's extremely sad.
And you can handle some stuff that I can't in terms of like horror movies and stuff like that. So that is going to be a trip.
It's just because I don't want to give too much away, but it's all completely unnecessary. And that's
the hard thing.
Yeah. and everybody's so young that's involved in it. So it's a heartbreaker. And I was going to present that one today, and it's so heavy. It might be a 2-parter just to cover everything that's happened. But yeah, we'll get into that at some point on this. I was going to
say, yeah, that'll probably be a couple weeks away. I've got something else, something I'm simmering on low back here. I got a nice little roux that's starting to darken a little bit, but it's not quite brown enough. We're not ready to deglaze anything over here, but it's simmering. So you'll have a tasty stew to look forward to next week.
I'm so hungry now.
I assure you that is in no way a segue to what I'm going to be talking about.
Oh man. Just the words roux just get me. Oh, am I getting some gumbo? What's going on?
You and me both, my dude. Well, I will let you read us out, my man. Thank you for the fantastic knowledge and episode, as always.
Well, I hope that you all are as dumb as I am from having to listen to all that nonsense after that. But yeah. Thank you to everybody who has made it to this point. If you could please like, comment, subscribe here on YouTube or wherever you're watching this. Wherever the words are, go leave us a good review. Please give us as many stars as whatever platform you're listening or watching this on will allow you to give. It's usually 5, but if you can do more, we'll take them.
Do it.
Yeah. And share this with your friends. Tell people about it. Again, this is still a fairly new episode, or new podcast rather. And the more love we can get on it, the more we will keep doing it. And we appreciate y'all out there. And if you need some strings, there's a website you can go to that's been hovering over here in the corner that you can...
That'll be stringjoy.com, Blake.
That's right. Go there, get them, or wherever you get your strings, go get them. Thank you. Even though this is a podcast for non-musicians as well. You know a musician, right. Buy them some strings. All right?
They need your help.
They need your help. Hook them up. Say these two guys on the internet provide me with immense amounts of entertainment. Here's their strings.
Which are not made of spaghetti. All right. That's it.
Later, folks.